All right, video number 2 in the event photography workflow. I'm going to try to summarize this really quickly here because I don't want this to be a long video, but I want it to be informative. And if I skim over something, just ask in the comments below and I'll be happy to reply, at least with my best answer. Also, if you haven't watched video number 1, the summary of this, you may want to check that out real quick because that explains a little bit more in detail what event I did recently that is going to have a lot of the information put out in this video and the following 2-3 other videos. All right, video number 2, this is preparing for the event. I go through a lot of stuff before an event. I like to plan and have an idea down to the, what do I do with my memory card? How do I flip my memory card over and put it in my pouch? All this stuff. Like, I try to plan everything. So, I'm going to try to be quick here. Planning for the event, booth setup preparation. Are you going to have a booth? Us, yes. We had a table, we had a TV, a 32-inch widescreen TV that had a USB port, and at night I would pick out a few pictures, edit a few pictures, well, a few meaning maybe 30 or 40, edit them real quick and put them on that flash drive so we can display it the next day on that TV, and people loved it. So the TV, make sure you have, you got to plan stuff like extension cords, power strips, maybe zip ties to hold up extension cords, something to cut the zip ties with. I'm telling you, it sounds like little tiny details, but really think about it in your head. You picture yourself setting this stuff up. Are you going to have a canopy set up? Let's see, marketing advertisements. I got banner, show specials, and business cards. Okay, I have business cards. I actually had special business cards made where on the back side of it, just for this event, had a coupon code which gives them a little bit of a percentage discount if they order online. That was option 1, or that was option 2. Option number 1 was a show special. I gave them a good price or a good deal on a USB flash drive that contains all their photos. And there's a lot of info that goes into that process alone. So maybe I'll make a whole separate video aside from this series talking about show specials, USB flash drives, and how people can get their pictures of all their dogs at an event like this. Because that's a lot of work. We're still working on it now as orders are still coming in. A chair. Maybe you need a folding chair. Make sure you have a chair because a lot of these venues, I think that venue charges like $45 a day to rent a chair or something like that. So make sure you bring like a folding chair. Renting equipment. All right, so this is the first time I rented equipment. Last year I had my one body, and I had a backup body, but it was a Canon. But I shoot Nikon now, so I had a Nikon body I used and Nikon lenses, and then I had a backup of a Canon body, but I since got rid of that. This year we had 2 pools going, meaning the event had 2 separate events going on that I couldn't be at both pools at the same time. So my stepson came, we rented another Nikon D750 body, and we rented a Nikkor 2470 lens. That's a whole nother story. I wasn't happy with that lens, but he shot one pool, I shot the other. If there was nothing going on one pool, we were both shooting one pool. I mean, we were getting different angles. There was times where he's doing title photos at our little flash where we had a flash set up, and I had to run between 2 pools, and that was hard. So renting equipment, make sure you rent the equipment, plan out how long you're going to need that equipment. It was well worth the money. I'm telling you, it was well worth the money. Even if I didn't use the equipment, it would have been well worth the money to have it as a backup in case my body broke or had some sort of problems. Label everything. Okay, labeling equipment. Like, let's see. I got my body here. I put C1 on it. Okay, that's not going to help prevent theft, but if we got 2 of the same exact looking bodies. We're quickly looking at the bodies, and I want to make sure I grab the right body. Well, one, yeah, I'm going to have the lens on it, and I'll know which one it is. But as you have more and more equipment out there, it's nice to know exactly which body is which, the batteries, SD cards. I even labeled my tripod. I don't know why. I just did. So labeling everything just made me feel better. It won't completely prevent theft, but all right. Charge all batteries. Of course, that's a given, but in the stress of things, if you're in a hurry to leave, there was one time I forgot to charge a battery before an event, and luckily I was able to charge it when I got there, but I was kicking myself in the butt for that. This is an important one. set the time zone on the camera and your laptop if you're going into a different time zone. For example, we live in Illinois. We had to drive out to Orlando, Florida to go shoot that big event. And the time zone was different, so I had to change them. And then I also had to sync them up on the two bodies, because when I ingest both, all the cards from all the bodies, I want them to be laid out, sorted by date. So there'll be a mix of two different body shots in there, and that's fine. But I want to make sure they're synced up. It's an easy one to forget when you drive somewhere if you haven't done it ahead of time, and then you're setting everything up, and then you just need to get out shooting. Chances are you may forget to set that time zone. Then you have to deal with it in post, and that's kind of a pain. At least it is for me. Clean your lenses and your equipment. Of course, take the time, really clean them out, clean the lenses off. Let's see. Use a checklist on things you need to bring. That's important too, because it's easy to forget something. Yeah, you can kind of shove everything in the corner here or something and say, I need to grab everything in that corner. But I feel checklists are great to have for stuff like this, because there's something you're driving to work one day, you're like, oh, I should probably bring this USB cable to charge, who knows, my GoPro or something, and it's not in your bag. Keep a checklist. Format all memory cards in camera. So I would do that ahead of time. I would make sure all my cards, of course, in the D750s, there's only 2 slots. Only, I mean, that's pretty good. But when you have them in there, format them in camera, and that way they're all ready. Software I use. Okay, so I use Photo Mechanic for all my metadata management, as well as ingesting and culling, basically going through and picking out the usable photos and deleting the crap. I'm not going to get into detail on doing that here, because I mean, that's probably a whole nother video. There's a lot of time that needs to be put into that one. So, but what I do is I use Photo Mechanic to ingest. And so like in this preparation video, what I would do for preparing is go into Photo Mechanic. Here, I'll even show you. Let's see. Let's launch Photo Mechanic. This is what I would do in preparation. I would go, let's see. Okay, so this is bringing up the IPTC stationary pad. And I have a bunch of different XMP files saved on my Google Drive account that are for different events that I do and different types of things. And the main ones I do is these Quad City Dog Center ones, and then let's see, do I have You Can Do But 2015. So ahead of time, before we even left, I set up all the description, all the tags, everything, and that way, when I get out there, all I got to do is when I ingest, the first time I ingest, I got to make sure that I have this one loaded, and then I can close it. So whenever I ingest, it'll pop all this stuff onto each and every image. And we can get into this more details later. But as far as Photo Mechanic goes, that's preparing it. Plan out the hard drives. Actually, that's a good one too. So there's many ways you can do this. When I ingest to 2 drives all the time, no matter what, 2 drives. Whether it's my internal one on my laptop here, or if it's on two external drives. I always do 2, because you never know with a hard drive. Especially I use SSDs only for this stuff. Only. It's faster, it's more reliable, less likely to break when you're traveling, because if you drop it, you don't have any moving parts in it. But for example, this one, I have a hard drive, an external hard drive called On Location. I used the external one for this trip because I was going to take a lot of photos. I didn't want it to fill up this laptop's drive, but most of the time I have my main ingest happen into this laptop, and then an external drive will be my secondary ingest location. So I go through and I set up a folder structure first. For example, that event, I set up a main folder, 2015, 12/08 through the 13th. That's the days I was going to be shooting and having pictures available. And then I name it just a summary of what it is. And then I break it down by day. I got Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, Saturday, and Sunday, awards and miscellaneous. And this is the exact same way I have it online. So that way people can easily, I know exactly, like if I'm looking at stats and stuff of the people looking at my site, I know what day it was and then the actual date. So I set up all these folders, and I have one ingest folder, because my ingests, whenever they come in, they always go into this ingest folder. That way I know I haven't culled through them. I know that if there's pictures in this, I need to go through and actually pick out the usable ones, and then I'll move them to the respective directories. All right, let's see what else we got here. Name the folders one per day. Plan out ingest workflow. Meaning, when I planned it out, I said, okay, I'm gonna have this ingest folder here. I named it 1 so it stays at the top. And when I dump a card, when I ingest a card, they're all gonna be there. And then my workflow is gonna be, okay, when I have time, I will go through this directory and pick out the usable photos, delete the ones I didn't pick, and then move all the usable ones to the actual directories. And then I'll work on editing later. That was my thought process here. Lightroom. Okay, so when we're getting into Lightroom, let's close this up. Let's check out Lightroom real quick. So I work off of 2 portfolios or 2 catalogs. One I call portfolio, meaning my main portfolio, and there's a lot of pictures in that portfolio. There's probably over, I don't know, we're probably close to 50,000 photos now in there. And then my on location one, it's clean. It's usually hardly anything in there. Every couple weeks I'll go through and move all the photos from my on location catalog to my portfolio, which is a process in itself, which is another video. But so we're gonna use on location. I set up presets for my ingesting. All right, so I can show you real quick here. Let's see, we got a lot of pictures. Let's just say, let's take Saturday for instance. Okay, so if we go into the develop module here, I'll show you the preset that I use. So I have an apply on import, and then I also have apply on import Florida, because Florida, it's so dark. I'm gonna just show you here. Let me reset this photo. Okay, that's coming straight out the camera. That's actually a good photo right out the camera. It's 800th of a second. It's using my 70-200 2.8 at 8,000 ISO. And if you look at it, 8,000. This is a whole nother thing too. But look at little noise. There's only a little bit of noise in here, and that's at 8,000 ISO. I'm pretty happy with it. At 3.2, I could have went to 2.8. Anyways, all right. So what I do is beforehand I set up a preset that does this. If I click it, you'll see what it did here. Now that's a bit much for a white dog and for the settings that I had. So, but I up the exposure a little bit. I drop the highlights, up the shadows just a little bit, up the whites, drop the blacks, clarity up that, and vibrance. And that's, nowadays, that's basically all I do. I don't do any other sharpening, noise reduction, or anything. I do that last. In fact, I didn't even do lens correction. Normally, I always do lens correction, where it fixes any distortion from the lenses and remove chromatic aberration. But I find that this tends to add a little bit more noise than I want with these dark images. So I don't even do that. I didn't even do that this time. Basically just did this. Real simple. And then I'd come in and actually edit it down a little bit, maybe drop this down for the black dogs or the white dogs. That way we see a little more detail in here. And then what I do is, this is still preparation. So I get this set how I want, and then I go, all right, I want to save this as a preset. It's easy to do. You hit plus, you name it, and you tell it what you want to save, and hit create. And then on import, when you're ingesting, when I drag all the files from Photo Mechanic into Lightroom, I tell it during import, do this preset. It'll be doing this preset. So all my photos are ready to go. I know my it's easy. All I got to do is go through one by one real quick, crop them out real quick, and just do some final adjustments, maybe brush on a little bit of lightness somewhere or whatever. That's my workflow for Photo Mechanic and Lightroom. And then at the end, and this is probably a whole other video as well, but at the end I will do a noise reduction of 30%. I set all these up to, and then I will do a sharpening. Very last thing I'll do is sharpening, and then we'll zoom back in. We'll take a look at it now. I mean, look at that noise. I think that's a good photo. I mean, I could use some more touching up and stuff, but for the most part, in that event, in this lighting condition, I'm happy with this photo. I talked about setting up a preset in Lightroom and then using an on-location catalog, and I probably went into way too much information for for this one. We're almost done for this video. All right. I back up the laptop using Carbon Copy Cloner. Basically, I have another external drive. It's not an SSD because I don't have that many SSDs available, but it's just a little external hard drive, 1 terabyte drive. I plug it in, I launch Carbon Copy Cloner, and I say back up my laptop drive to that drive. And the good thing with that is I can boot off that drive if I have to. If this laptop crashes, if the hard drive crashes or has a problem here, I can boot up off that external hard drive and still get my work done and ingesting done, because that's going to be crucial. If you can't get your ingesting done out at an event, you better have a ton of these bad boys. That way you can, and that's probably another thing I'm going to do next year. I'm going to buy a ton more of these, so I don't even have to do ingesting at location. But I'm not rich. All right, set up whatever online gallery you use and set to private. So what I use is SmugMug. That's what I use for my online galleries. I go in and I set it up basically. Let me close this and we'll bring back up Photomechanic. Now my online gallery, I set up the same exact folder structure here, and then I set them all to private. That way nobody can see them yet. I may create one by itself in here and put a thumbnail up saying, hey, photos coming soon. You know, that way people know that if they go to that directory, they see 2015 Eukanuba show and there's nothing in there, they may, well, what's going on? But at least if I have a thumbnail picture or something in there saying, hey, photos are coming soon, I set them public as soon as they're edited and uploaded. Other than that, that's a real brief preparation. I'm just trying to think of anything else off the top of my head that would be helpful. Mainly just really think about you actually being there, walking in the door the first time, what you're carrying. Maybe you need a little something to carry, like a dolly or something. I don't know. Maybe, just think about everything. Put yourself right in that location and think about you setting everything up and tearing it down, and what you want your customers or potential customers to be able to see on that table, on the booth, or when they come talk to you. Make sure you have business cards in your pocket and direct them over to your table booth or something. As far as preparation goes, I think that's about it. Make sure you have all your charger cables and all that stuff too. But all right, so leave your questions and comments below. I'll be happy to reply. If you have any other tips too, we'd love to hear them. And look forward to video number 3, which is shooting. He's actually out there shooting. All right, guys.